All right, let's talk about a game that did more than just define a genre. It literally built a culture. Today, we're going to rip and tear our way through the story of Doom and find out how a small, scrappy team of developers in Texas basically unleashed hell upon the entire world.
So, where do we even start with a legend like Doom? Well, let's not treat it like some dusty museum piece. Let's talk about how it's still alive, Still kicking 30 years later. It's less of a retro game and more of a ghost in the machine. And I mean every machine.
You've seen the meme, right? If something has a screen and a processor, someone somewhere is asking the question, but can it run Doom? It's this incredible running joke, a weird technical challenge, a global phenomenon. I mean, we've seen it on McDonald's cash registers, on smart thermostats, even a digital pregnancy test. No joke. So what is it? What makes this one specific game from 3 decades ago so unkillable?
To get that, we gotta rewind the clock, way back. We're talking 1993. See, Doom wasn't just another game on the shelf. For a whole generation of us, it was a rite of passage. It was this massive, mind-blowing leap forward that completely changed what we thought a video game could even do. Okay, so let's get into the tech, because that's where the magic really starts. Before Doom, first-person games were, well, they were kind of flat, right? And to really get how big of a deal this was, you have to look at what came right before it, from the exact same developers.
And when you put them side by side, whoa, the difference is just night and day. Wolfenstein 3D, fantastic game, no question, but it's basically a maze. Everything's a right angle, every ceiling is the same height, the lights are always just on. Then Doom comes along and just smashes that whole idea to pieces. Suddenly you've got stairs, platforms, walls that aren't just straight lines, and lighting. Oh man, the lighting. You had dark corners and flickering lights. It felt like a place, a real, terrifying place.
So how did they pull this off? Well, the secret sauce, the absolute genius move from John Carmack, was something called binary space partitioning, or BSP. Okay, stick with me. In the simplest terms, it was this super clever trick to let the game figure out what to draw ahead of time. So on those old, slow 1993 computers, it didn't have to think. It just knew what you were supposed to see from any given spot. And that trick? It unlocked everything. Speed, complex level design, it's the reason the game had that incredible atmosphere.
All right, so the tech was an absolute game changer. But, amazing tech doesn't guarantee an amazing game. There was a war going on behind the scenes, a real battle for the soul of Doom, and it was out of that chaos that the game we know and love was born.
And when I say chaos, I mean it. Look at this timeline. It was insane. They went from 0 to one of the most legendary games of all time in just 18 months. But look closer, you see those bumps in the road? Like they had to stop everything to port Wolfenstein to the SNEs? And then bam, right in the thick of it, a huge creative shakeup that could have killed the whole project.
See, the original idea for Doom was, well, it was completely different. The creative director, Tom Hall, had this whole thing planned out in this huge document they called the Doom Bible. Seriously. And it was deep. We're talking a complex story, different characters you could play as, a detailed military base. It was way more of a story-driven sci-fi adventure.
But not everyone was on board with that. John Romero especially felt like all that story was just getting in the way. He and others on the team, they wanted something else. They wanted it fast, brutal. They wanted levels that were fun to run around and shoot in, not realistic simulations. For them, the story didn't matter. The gameplay was everything.
And, well, you can probably guess what happened. The two sides just couldn't agree. And so, just 4 months before the game was supposed to come out, Tom Hall left the company. The Doom Bible, they basically threw it in the trash. And the team went all in on that fast, brutal, action-first vision. It was a tough, dramatic split, but that's the moment that made Doom, well, Doom.
Okay, so the vision is finally locked in. The team is in a flat-out sprint to the finish line. And what happened when they finally launched this thing? Man, it wasn't a release. It was an explosion. It changed everything.
The day it launched, December 10th, 1993, was absolute madness. They'd just finished a 30-hour coding marathon to fix one last tiny bug. They go to upload the game to a university server, and the server immediately collapses. Why? Because thousands of people were hitting refresh trying to download it at the same time. It crashed a second time. They had to literally kick every single person off the network just to get the file uploaded. We had never seen hype like this before. Ever.
And a huge reason for that hype came down to one new feature. One word, really.
While they were building the multiplayer, John Romero needed a name for it. He just kind of came up with Deathmatch. Think about that. That one word he invented didn't just name a game mode. It named an entire genre. It was the birth of the competitive online shooter as we know it.
So just how big did this thing get? Get ready for this. By 1995, it was estimated that Doom was installed on more computers than Windows. Let me say that again, more computers than Microsoft Windows. It was everywhere, every office, every university, every dorm room. It wasn't just a game, it was a part of the digital landscape.
And that brings us all the way back to the beginning. How is this game still a big deal? Okay, we've seen the tech was revolutionary, we know the gameplay was forged in fire, the launch was a cultural moment, but there's one more piece. The final, genius decision that made Doom immortal. It all comes down to a little three-letter file, the WAD. It stands for Where's All the Data. And it's basically a little package with all the game's stuff in it. The maps, the sounds, the graphics. But here's the brilliant part. The team deliberately built the game so anyone could make their own WAD files and load them up. They didn't just sell people a game, they gave them the keys to the car and said, go nuts. Build whatever you want.
And oh, did they build. For 30 decades now, the community has just been churning out this endless stream of incredible stuff. You've got fun, silly things like Simpsons Doom. You've got insane overhauls like Brutal Doom that crank the action up to 11. And then you have stuff that's basically brand new games, entire post-apocalyptic worlds, or even weird, mind-bending psychological horror maps. It's this non-stop creativity that's kept the game alive and exciting all these years. So in the end, that's the real legacy of Doom, isn't it? It's not just the shotguns and the demons. It's a lesson in what happens when you trust your community, when you give them the tools to create. id Software made sure their game would never really be finished. That hell could be unleashed over and over in millions of different ways they never even imagined. They didn't just build a game, they built a universe. And that, right there, is why Doom will probably live forever.